how many subscribers are on your channel?
200.
200. Like
Yeah.
you could build a 7-8 figure business off of 200 subscribers. Well, you can only help people get to where you're at. You can't help people get ahead because you haven't gone there. The more you learn and the better you get, that delta becomes bigger and you can help more people go further, and then you can charge more, right?
Yeah.
Your environment has been perfectly designed to keep you where you are. The fortunate thing, and going 2023, 2024, you can change it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the opportunities you have right now at your age are so much better than your parents at your age.
I want to start off without doing your bio because, again, if people are watching this on YouTube, they know who the fuck you are. Okay. Let's start with this. So how we met was because I have to get a shout out to Joe Polish because it's because of him I ended up meeting you.
Okay.
And so we go to Joe Polish's book launch party for What's In It For Them. And I see you there. And I immediately go over to Kayla, my fiance. Well, by the time this views, my wife. And I go, thank you. And I go, holy shit, it's Evan Carmichael. And she's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm going to go say hi. She goes, don't do it. Don't be weird. And I was like, I want to get a picture with him because my team, no, we've been studying your stuff for a while. And I seen you on I Love Marketing a whole bunch. And so I was like, I got to get a picture. And Eunice walks up and, my mother-in-law and she's like, what's up? I'm like, I want to get a picture with Evan, but Kayla's telling me it's weird. She goes, I'll introduce you. So I came there just to get a selfie and you spent 20 minutes with me breaking down YouTube strategy, how I should be doing my content. The reason I wanted to start with this is because I think there's a lot of people online that you think won't necessarily be the same in person, right? Like, oh, this person's super busy. And by the way, the entire 20 minutes, Evan, I don't know if you know this, I felt bad, so I kept trying to pull away almost, and then you're like, no, dude, we're working. Let's go, right? You were ignoring people. It was amazing. My point is, you gave me a masterclass that day on generosity and living your purpose. And one of the things I want to start with is your purpose about belief.
Okay.
Because I think one of the things that you, again, showed me that day was to live in your purpose means if somebody needs help, right, and they're an entrepreneur because that's who you care about a lot, you're going to sit in the middle of a fucking book launch party when you could be doing other cool things, meeting with better people or whatever, and you helped me for 20 minutes. So first of all, I want to say thank you for that. But what is it about entrepreneurs and this number one problem you feel like in the world, which is the lack of belief in oneself? Why is that so important to you? And first of all, why little old me did you help for fucking 20 minutes in the middle of a book launch party?
Well, what a start. I think lack of belief isn't just a problem for entrepreneurs. I think it's just everybody's problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my problem, right? I think your purpose comes from your pain. So, right, whatever you struggled the most with is what you want to help other people through. And because I struggled so much with believe myself, I want to help other people go through it. And I'm still not done. I'm still the next Evan is on the other side of even more belief. And so I want to help give that to the world. And all of us have, I believe, a single most important core value. When you figure out what that is, it's still what you need today, personally, and it's also what you want to contribute and give to others, right? What's your most important core value? You have to pick.
The most important core value is, I don't know how would I word this? It's removing victimhood from people.
Okay. So however you want to call it, cool. And I'm just putting you on your spot.
Yeah, it's okay.
That is the greatest thing you can actually give people is that.
Freedom would be the positive spin to that.
Cool. So freedom, the greatest thing that you teach people is not coaching, it's freedom. Mm-hmm. You're teaching them how to have more freedom.
Yeah.
And the next level of Raylen is on the other side of even more freedom. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that we tend to forget is everybody would look at you and say, yeah, but you're already the freedom guy. You already have so much freedom. It's but this is still nothing compared to what Raylen in 20 years could be, right? And so you still need to unlock even more freedom. I still need to unlock even more belief in myself. And every time I learn and improve and pick up something, I try to then teach somebody else how to do it as well. I think it was Denzel who talked about you're climbing the staircase of growth, and we're always so focused on going forward, but reach back and help somebody get to where you're at.
Yeah.
And so because I still struggle with belief for the next thing, and that was my biggest struggle growing up, I want to help other people believe in themselves more. It's just when you find that thing, it just doesn't get old.
Yeah. So for you, what do you think comes first, the belief or the work? I had this kind of debate before. Whereas, for example, growing up, I didn't really believe in myself, right? Because my only exposure was my dad being in prison and my mom struggling constantly as an entrepreneur because she was a seamstress doing wedding dresses. So she struggled. I had no reason to believe in myself, but over time I just did the work, and then eventually I go, oh shit, like I'm starting to believe a little bit. I got an A on this test I wasn't supposed to get an A on. I'm starting to believe. So what do you think comes first, like for those people that are just starting out? Is it the belief that you can do it, or the work?
Well, self-belief comes from doing difficult things.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that you do something that you didn't think you were capable of doing, all of a sudden you say, oh, I can do it, right? So every time there's something hard in front of you that then you say no to, you're reinforcing the belief that you can't do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you say yes to doing it, you start to reinforce a new belief that you're creating. So it's not just these one-off moments, it's the everyday battle for everything. Like, did you wake up and do your morning routine? Did you work out? Did you watch a video? Did you yoga? Did you kiss your wife? Like, whatever the things are that are part of your routine, there are days when you wake up, you don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's in those moments where it really counts. Who are you? Are you the kind of person who follows through and does it? Because then that starts to reinforce a positive belief about yourself. Or are you the person who says, I'm tired, I'm not going to do it today.
Yeah.
That's okay. So self-belief, self-confidence, self-respect, self-love, I believe, comes from doing difficult things. Not even in it working, just in the showing up.
Mm-hmm.
The willingness to put out your first YouTube video. It's going to suck, right? Like, it's going to suck. Don't expect it to be great. Your first of anything sucks. You get on a pair of skis and you fall down. Your first YouTube video is going to suck. So it's not in how well it did. It's how did you show up. You go to the gym for the first time. You're not going to go, bench crazy weights. You're going to suck. But what I think is important is if you can recognize where you're struggling, you can also surround yourself in a better environment to then give you the courage, motivation, push to go off and do the thing. What I mean by that is if your thing is freedom and somebody else knows that they want freedom too, and they're not freedom. They're working their 9 to 5. They hate their life. They hate their boss. They hate their relationship. Like, they hate everything about their life. They have no freedom. Cool. There are some scary things that you have to go do to start building a path towards freedom. You're probably not just going to quit tomorrow and then have a 6-figure business and you're free. It's a process.
Yeah.
But your life can be completely different 1 year from today if you start taking that kind of action. But if you know freedom is a thing that you need to work on, you can also engineer your environment to be around the people who make you feel more free.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you know those people in your life right now. And if you do, you want to spend more time with them. But maybe you have no idea who they are. So that's where YouTube is so powerful. They could watch your YouTube channel. They can listen to this podcast. They can watch other people who inspire them to have more freedom. And what's the point? What's the point of listening to a video? It's not just to get all hyped up and motivated, but it's to use that motivation to then give you the courage to go take the action.
Yeah.
Because the motivation alone isn't enough. You don't change your life by listening to a podcast. You change your life by listening to podcasts, getting information, and taking some kind of action in your life.
Yeah.
And so you can take a slow, winding path towards doing it of, I tried a bunch of things and eventually started believing myself more. Or you can engineer it to say, I know when I watch these people's videos or read these books, it makes me feel a certain way, and I like that. And so you can engineer that on a consistent basis, which then gives you the motivation and courage to then go take the step that you actually need to take to build more belief or freedom into your life.
Well, what I love about what you're saying on the side of like engineering your future is that I think what I mean by freedom, oftentimes, like, yes, that's part of it, it's money, but the freedom too, it's like the freedom to choose who you get to be every day. Mm-hmm. And like for me, again, I struggled because I was like, my past, like most people go, your trajectory where you're going to be is based on your past, right? Well, my past wasn't that great. So I had to like invent a new Raylen. And what's interesting to your point is the books that I read, the YouTube videos that I watched, it was really exposure. Something I wrote down before this was, I think the underlying issue to the lack of belief that we have sometimes is just exposure. Like, I didn't know, I talk about him quite often, but I had a wrestling coach in high school that was the first millionaire I ever met. And he told me, he goes, Raylen, I'm a millionaire, like for my business. And I didn't understand. I was like, did you win the lottery? Like, how does one get $1 million? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it was that exposure, like, it unlocks a door. So I think like for you, and what I love about your videos predominantly is that these exposés, if you will, these deep dives, this decoding success of really successful people, you go, I'm not that different from them, which is, it's interesting because again, when I've been super fortunate that I've been allowed to go to like the book launch party for Joe. And there was one other thing I went to, it was like a cocktail party, and I met people like you, like these 7-figure, in my mind originally I was like, they are like gods. I'm not shit compared, like, I don't know. And then I met you and several other people who, by the way, were most generous people in the world, including Joe. And I go, I'm not that different. There's just some skills that they've developed because they've been in the game longer or whatever. But really, like, we both have the same kind of thoughts, right? So I think, what are your thoughts on the idea that maybe the lack of self-belief really is just the problem is exposure for some people?
Yeah, and we're around people who keep us stuck. Like your environment has been perfectly designed to keep you where you are. And the fortunate thing, and going 2023, 2024, is you can change it. Like the opportunities you have right now at your age are so much better than your parents at your age.
Yeah.
Like we have the internet. Yeah. We have YouTube. All the best mentors and teachers are there. Like the information now is available. The opportunities are available. You had to be crazy. I'm 42 years old. If I look at my dad when he was 42, he would have to be crazy to be an entrepreneur. You have to be basically unemployable, crazy to start your own company. And it was really hard. Now anybody can do it. So the world has changed. And so if you don't like the environment that you're in and the people and the voices that are in your head, cool. You can shift it. You can now choose to be around more positivity. And I encourage people to really do an audit of the friends in your life, the people in your life, and also who you're following on Instagram, on YouTube, the various platforms. When you watch YouTube videos or you're on Instagram and you put it down, do you feel better about yourself or worse? Do you spend 2 hours just kind of mindlessly scrolling? Cool. Like unfollow all those people.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of, like Instagram and YouTube are not the problem. There's lots of great people posting amazing content. Your life can change by being around the right people.
Yeah.
So consciously engineer who you're going to be following and who you're going to listen to. And our parents are great and our friends are great, but they probably haven't done the thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
And so their advice might be from a loving place, but it's probably meaningless to actually
They're
help you
also
accomplish.
trying to keep you in this box of what they are used to. Like they know and love you as this certain type of Evan or Raylen, whatever. And then when you start to change, there's this weird thing that happens with people that I've noticed is that they start to worry. What if he kind of elevates too far ahead of me, or would we be friends? And so they say things kind of like, oh, it must be not like that kind of people, right? And it's, again, to your point though, they love you and they want to protect you, but sometimes that protection holds you back to where you could go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a combination of them being afraid for themselves, like it's a lack of self-love. That if Raylen goes off and has all this gigantic success, and I graduated the same year as him, and we're the same age, came from the same city, we're both from Detroit, and here's what happened. What does it say about me? If he crushes it and I'm not, that means I'm a loser. I don't want to know. I don't want to feel like I'm a loser. So I need to distance myself, or I need to tear him down. And so that's a subconscious thing that happens naturally for a lot of people. The parent side is they usually just have a different definition of success. It's like what success looks like to them is completely different than you. So they love you, probably, like real love, probably. Like your mom probably loves you, right? There's a good chance.
I love how you put that to it in the book Momentum. You even put that in parentheses a couple times, like probably your parents love you.
It's like it's a good chance that your parents love you. But it's a real love where some of your friends, it may not be that deep of a love, and there's a lot more jealousy in there. Like your parents are probably not jealous of you. They probably actually do want the best for you. Probably. They just have a completely different definition. Like your parents might as well be pilgrims. Like they grew up in a completely different era.
Yeah.
And so they want you to be safe. They want you to
stable.
So what for them that was go get a job. Like the most stable thing to do now is actually have your own business and go crush it than to rely on a paycheck from somebody else. But it's not trying to convince them of that, because they don't want to learn new things. Yeah. Right. So it's having actually empathy. Like you need to be the adult in the relationship with your parents. That's a hard thing to take on. Yeah. But I think just having that empathy releases a lot of the pain, because a lot of times when people are trying to start their own business and their parents are, against it or saying, oh, it's not working. See, I told you, just go back and get that stable job. We think, well, why are they not supporting me? Like I want them to support me. How do they not see this? And when you understand that you actually know more than them and you have to be the adult in the relationship, that empathy removes a lot of the sting of the words, which allows you to have a healthier relationship, I think.
It's a context thing, right? Like they don't understand what we're trying to do. I remember I told my mom that, well, one, I turned down like a 6-figure job to become a online coach, and she's like, the fuck, And she's like, well, I don't get it. I'm like, I'm trying to explain to her. I'm like, yeah, people are going to hire me. At the time, it was just doing mindset stuff and sales. And I said, they're going to hire me to help them with, X, Y, and Z. And she's like, I don't get it. And I was like, oh, you know who Tony Robbins is? Because she grew up, listening to Tony Robbins, like, everybody did. And she goes, yeah. I'm like, kind of like Tony Robbins. And she goes, you're not Tony Robbins. Why would anybody buy from you? And initially, Evan, obviously, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like,
Yeah.
first of all, I know I'm not Tony Robbins, but also, what the fuck? And then I go, but then it was that context thing. Like, oh, she just doesn't get it. She doesn't understand how easy, or I shouldn't say easy, how simple it is to start something like an online business or become a coach. But again, she was doing it out of love, I think, obviously, too. But one of the things I wanted to get to today was also there's a whole bunch of layoffs happening. Right. And my journey started with 2 layoffs. I got laid off twice. Once because the company sold and then they shut down half the locations and, I had a big salary. So they're like, bye. And then second time because of the pandemic / the owner was an idiot and didn't know what he was doing. And so because of 2 layoffs, I started my business. And it's like the best thing that ever happened to me. So my question to you would be like, for those that are the thousands and probably 50,000 plus between all the tech companies that are getting laid off, like what advice do you give them to maybe getting started? Because my whole thing is this, with those people, they're in this rabbit race of like, or this constant like thing of getting a job and then you're going to get laid off in 2 years or something happens and then, your salary's kind of tied into the company, all these things, or you can kind of go on your own, even though it's scary as shit. But like, what advice would you give to those people that are, again, getting laid off right now? They have there's the fork in the road, like maybe I can go this way or I'll go get another job and maybe face getting laid off again.
It's worth exploring. I don't know that everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, but I think it's worth at least testing and trying. Like, how do you know if you like sushi until you try it? Sushi sounds gross. It's raw fish with really spicy mustard and fish eggs and seaweed with some rice. Like, it sounds really gross. And then you eat it. It's like, oh, this is actually really good. So how do you know if entrepreneurship is going to work for you unless you actually go off and try it? Give yourself options. So if you've been laid off and you have some severance, great. Don't just sit on the couch and waste it. What are you going to do? This is the time to invest in yourself. And even if investing in yourself leads to you getting a better job, cool. But it's worth spending the time of reflection to say, you were laid off, but other people weren't. So cool. Maybe your boss was an idiot, but other people didn't get laid off. So what did you do wrong? Right? That's how I would approach it. Right? Yeah. Okay, I got laid off. Cool. I was a top performer. But why was I not one of the ones that got kept?
Yeah.
And so it might be the biggest blessing of all time, but how do I get better? What am I missing? And if I'm going to go back into the workforce, then what skills do I need to improve to make sure I'm not the guy laid off next time? Or if there's been this itching idea of starting your own company, then maybe now's the time to go off and do it. I'm not the burn the boats guy. I'm actually pretty risk adverse. So for me, if I wanted to really focus on learning something and I was stuck, like if I had a family, I look right now, I have a wife, I got a son, what would I do? I would probably get a job to learn the thing. If I wanted to really learn YouTube, I try to get a job with somebody who's doing YouTube. You were here at this podcast production studio, right? Like, get a job here, learn about the industry, make some contacts, and start my thing on the side until my side hustle became enough that I could go and quit my job.
Evan, people forget about the apprenticeship phase. And by the way, so did I. But like mastery, which I think you've talked about on your channel. You've like obviously showed a lot of like Robert Greene stuff before. But mastery, I think, is one of the most important books he's ever written, even more than like 48 Laws of Power, because in that he talks about the importance of back in the day we would have an apprenticeship for fucking 12 years. Right. And then you would get the job. But in those 12 years, you're developing skill sets, you're finding your purpose, so on and so forth. Well, I realized that like corporate for me was a part of the apprenticeship. And then I ended up, before I became a coach, I was, I guess you could say, a featured coach in this coaching program, right? It was already like kind of up and running. I helped them with their sales process, and then I was coaching there. But that's how I learned how to coach online and how to develop a personal brand and stuff. And then I went on my own. But during that year, about a year where I was being an apprentice, if you will, I didn't make that much money. I think I made like, well, in comparison, it's like 50, maybe 60 grand that year I made. The company made like 7 figures, right? But like I made 50 grand, which doesn't sound like a lot. But the amount that I learned, though, is the reason why our first year in business on our own, we did multiple 6 figures. And people look at that and they go, oh, like he got lucky his first year. No, it's because I took an apprenticeship, right? So kind of what you're saying, too, if you're getting laid off, why not, work? Like I have this kid in the Elevated Coaches Academy who I don't know why. I just felt bad. He was 17 when he first came to me. At the time, the program was a lot more expensive, and I was like, I don't want to. Like, I was like, you're 17. I don't know if you're gonna stick with this, and I don't want a 17-year-old to give me thousands of dollars and then not do anything with it. And so I said, you know what? Why don't you just be an intern, right? You're gonna get the program for free, you get my coaching, but you're gonna write Twitter threads for me and some blog stuff or whatever. He's learned more that way than I think even being a part of the program, because he got to see behind the scenes. So I think kind of what you're saying, if not to put words in your mouth, is like, you could kind of do something similar to that. Like, if you want to be a consultant, find a consulting firm or find a consultant that you could do kind of the stuff that they don't want to do, so you can learn along the way.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to take you 12 years to get there. Yeah. And I think what's great is there's so many new industries that are popping up that the experts are not even that expert. Like, mm-hmm. you can cut your learning curve down pretty quickly. You look at podcasts. You're going to start a podcast. Great. Like, there's no person who's been doing podcasts for the past 50 years who has all the gray hairs, who has all the knowledge that you have to go and learn from. You could learn and be a great podcast producer, host, videographer pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I look in the YouTube world, and there's so many people becoming YouTube consultants, and most of them are not very good.
Yeah.
So if you can connect to somebody who actually is good and learn from them, you could become in the top 1% very quickly. And it doesn't have to take 12 years like it used to.
And I would imagine, too, it's like, because you said this earlier, which, again, I love your insight about this, because you don't have to be an expert and be perfect at the thing before you start coaching people on it or teaching people about it. It's like there's an old saying, even my teacher back in high school, when we once said, look, I was like, how do you learn all this shit before class? Like, it seems like a lot. You read the whole textbook before this, and you did. He goes, no, I just got to be a couple of chapters ahead of you. And it kind of blew my mind, because it's kind of the same thing, if you will, about coaching. It's like, especially with how fast things go, like take ChatGPT, for example. You and I were talking before this about some of the things going on with that. But there's people teaching ChatGPT, and you think, well, why do you need to teach that? Well, because the input is asking great questions. There is a skill there a little bit too. So it's like, you don't have to be that far ahead of people, I think, before you become a coach or whatever.
If you go back to the Denzel Washington analogy of, like, you're taking your steps, and the further up you climb on the staircase, you reach back and help people get to where you're at. Well, you can only help people get to where you're at. You can't help people get ahead because you haven't gone there. So the more you learn and the better you get, that delta becomes bigger, and you can help more people go further, and then you can charge more, right? So if you only know the intro level stuff, you can charge a little bit to help people get to that level. If you start gaining mastery and get better at it, that becomes you can help people get to step 10 instead of 2. Well, now you can charge a lot more to help people make that bigger delta. But yeah, there's so many new things coming up, like ChatGPT. I just came from San Diego, had a dinner with friend of the channel, John Asraf, and a good chunk of the conversation was just comparing what prompts are you using? How are you using ChatGPT? Like, we know what it can do, but what prompts are you using? What's the specific use case that you're using for your business? And in those collective notes, we start to get better. So if you want to be a ChatGPT expert, who is there? There's like not many people.
Yeah. So
you could suddenly become one of the best in the world if you really dedicated the next 3 to 6 to 12 months. Like, in 3 months, you could become top 1% of 1% at ChatGPT if you really wanted to, which then provides so many extra business results, versus if you wanted to be a carpenter or something. It's going to take you a lot longer because the skills haven't evolved that much. No knock on carpentry. Maybe there's some new tools I don't know about. But if you're going in an old industry where the skills have not evolved that much, then the people who are more experienced and have been there longer are better than you. And so it takes longer to climb the ladder. Where if you're in a new industry where there's not that many people that are better than you, and it has been around for that long, creates a giant white space for you to go in and start to crush.
Yeah. I think one of the other things too that is kind of important when you're just getting started and thinking about, okay, what can I do, is you really don't need that many clients. Like, I think it's this odd thing that I don't know if you've come across it, because you've helped probably significantly more entrepreneurs than me at this point, but there's this thing that happens where I talk to early stage entrepreneurs and coaches, and they're like, yeah, I want to make 7 figures. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And they're like, yeah, I got to get with all these people. I got to do this. I got to do that. And then depending on the price of your program, right, you let them know, like, sometimes it's like you need 20 people. You don't need that many, right? And sometimes it takes a while to get to that 20. But I think sometimes we make it too complicated, too complex. And in people's minds, especially when you leave corporate, you think you need this huge corporation to do numbers. But again, I know people that are still solopreneurs that do 7 figures and they're happy. They're like, this is all I do. And I meet with 20 people and I work 14 hours a week and I'm cool. Like, you kidding me?
Yeah, this might be a controversial opinion. But
Hit me.
Yeah, I think most people make the mistake at the beginning of, I need to go sell a course. I need to go have these $57 products. And to make that business fly, you need a big audience, you know, or you need to spend a lot on advertising. And most people, this is where they start to fail. It's because making the course seems hard, but whatever. You make the course, that's not the hard part. It's the marketing of it. Nobody knows who you are. And so there's so many people, so many coaches, and I feel for them, who've spent 6 months making a course and then they sell 4 and you just made $200. You know, that's not going to feed you. And so I love the big mission of I want to change the world. Me too. I'm trying to change the world. I want everybody to believe more in themselves. I love the big long-term brand. But where most people struggle is they don't make enough money fast in their business. They run out of runway and then they're back to some job that they hate. So to your point, I think the better plan is sell higher ticket things to fewer people. And then you can worry about mass. I love that it's your big mission to change the world. Amazing. But there's a sequence to things that if you can follow the sequence, you'll be a lot more successful than if you try to go mass in the beginning. You're probably going to stop because most people stop. Yeah. Right. So we launched 4 agencies in the past 2.5 years. And the minimum starting point is $2,000 a month. So always think monthly. You're doing coaching. This is an annual program that they're signing up for with monthly or quarterly or annual payments. So it's not just a one-off coaching session, because you don't really even get the most value from one-off coaching sessions. It's the ongoing. So think annual program from the get.
I love, because again, it's like you start, because everyone does that. You're right. Like I talked to so many people that are like, I'm just going to launch something that's like $97 or do whatever, and then I'll start and build there. But to your point, like to make a dent in terms of volume, you do got to have a following. And let's face it, like you probably don't, right? Like at that early stage. And maybe your mom buys it, but you know, for the most part, you're way better off doing the work to get 5. Look at, if you get 5 clients that's paying you $2,000 a month, you're good. And then you can start to build and take some of that money too. And because
that gives you the freedom to then hire a team, to then build, to then create, to focus on your brand. Like so many people are focused on having 18 different sources of passive income, which is great, but they all make like $10 a month. It's not enough, right? And so if you look at your heroes and look at the people who've made it, the passive income comes afterwards. Once they've started making money. Look at how they got started. They focused on one thing and crushed it. And so if we can get your business to the point where you're making 6 figures or whatever is, you're not off buying your Lambos, but you're making enough to support you. You don't have to go get another job and then hopefully hire somebody part-time on your team. Then that gives you the base to have a lot more freedom to then do whatever you want to do and build your long-term brand. I've just seen it happen so many times over and over and over and over again. It's why when we met at that party and we're talking YouTube, so many people want to do YouTube videos, and it's great. But if you're going to make money just off of revenue, off of ads on YouTube, it's going to take so long to build up your audience that most people, not that Raylen would, but most people quit along the way because it takes too long to monetize. So you need to start a biz dev show. Like you need to use YouTube to start making you money right now in your company, because if YouTube became the #1 source of lead gen for you, you would suddenly spend a lot more time on it, dedicate more resources to it. And so it's these parallel paths of we need to make money right now. If you are not making money right now, your business will stop and you will end up having to go back and get a job. And we're building a long-term brand at the same time. And so I've seen so many people with a huge heart and a huge mission just never make any money out of the gate, and they end up sputtering or completely quitting on their dream because they just never figured out how to make money with it.
I think that also intention is part of that too. Like, you know, there's a reason why I think we're, I feel like you'd be proud of us. I think we're about 100 or so videos in on our YouTube channel, maybe more. And I have no intention of quitting it. But it's because I had the right intention. I knew I wasn't going to monetize my channel in 6 months or, you know, I wasn't planning on making money with it. The way that I looked at it was different. And I said, well, I'm going to make these videos as a way that people can't afford to work with me, right? I'm going to train them on the YouTube channel. But then what I started doing is I started using it as a way through my my immediate let's make money strategy. So in LinkedIn, for example, I was doing DMs and stuff like that to get clients now because we need money now when we first started. And basically, if they said, hey, I'm not really interested right now, or I have this going on, I'm like, no problem. Also, you said you have this pain point. I created a video about it. Here, go check it out. Because now I can capture in the long run, right? Especially if you subscribe to the channel, eventually you're going to convert, was my thought. And so the happy accident that I'm planning on happening in the year, I don't know when it'll happen, right? A year from now, 2 years from now, eventually the channel will grow and we'll have leads coming in. But for the meantime, it's like, I think to your point, because of, not to put blame on platforms, but Instagram, TikTok, etc., we want that instant gratification. I post video, 45,000 people see it, versus YouTube. It's like when you first start, you're going to get 2 people to see it. And then you're like, fuck, what am I doing this for?
Well, with YouTube, there's 3 different kinds of shows you can create. There's the Biz Dev show, there's Show Me the Process, and then there's Thought Leadership. Most people do Thought Leadership, that's more direct to camera. Here are the 8 ways to fix your mindset, to be a better coach, whatever. Those are the
By
longest.
the way, when I met you, you said, let me guess, you're doing the thought leadership in front of the camera talk. I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah. So that's where most people start, and that's what we see. And that's the slowest, that's the most long-term effective way to build, but it's the slowest way to start monetizing. And so if you're given a choice, if you need to pay rent or pay your mortgage, or you have your wedding coming up and you gotta, you gotta go to your trip to Costa Rica or wherever you're going, you need money. So what are you going to do? You're going to focus on the LinkedIn DMs because it may not be super efficient, but at least it's bringing in money. And then the YouTube videos quickly falls away, right? Now, if you start making enough money to support yourself from the LinkedIn videos and you can buy into the long-term vision, cool, you'll stick with it. But most people don't make enough money to think about the long-term, and they don't prioritize enough what's going to happen to their brand in 5 to 10 years because they don't have enough money to pay rent or their mortgage next month. So then LinkedIn becomes the number one priority, or whatever the thing is that's working for you, kind of. Where if we can flip it to say, okay, that's a cool LinkedIn strategy, but like let me show you an even better YouTube strategy that you can start making money today with your channel with no views and no subscribers because you're doing a biz dev show or you're going to Show Me the Process show, and then we can work on your long form.
Can you break down the biz dev show?
So the biz dev show is you think about what do you sell? And who, you can either talk to clients or partners. Partners are ideal, so like referral partners. So who are people? So if you look at your business, who are people that if they were thinking about you consistently would refer lots of business to you? Not names, but like types of people.
It would probably be someone, maybe I'm off, but it'd probably be someone with a higher ticket mastermind. And then the people that can't qualify for that because it's too expensive, maybe those people would get referred to us.
So they probably have low ticket offers or options.
To get them ready? Yeah.
And they're probably not going to, like that's almost a competitor to you.
Yeah.
And your competitors might be a good guess.
I think that's why I just don't see anybody as a competitor. But anyway, you're right.
But it doesn't matter what you think. It's
Correct.
what they think. And will they refer business to you?
Probably
not.
Yeah.
So you could have a great conversation. Like this is a great conversation,
Yeah.
but I'm not like passing business to you,
Yeah.
right? So if you were in, I need money right now, you shouldn't have me on the show, right? Now you might have people just for branding, whatever, but who has referred business to your business? Types of people.
Writers, like a odd scenario, but this guy I know, he's a writing coach, he's a ghostwriter. So he sends his clients to us to work with their branding and also like all the other stuff.
So that's a perfect example. The writing coach might be teaching people how to write. They're teaching a technical skill set to help people with, but they don't know how to do the mindset, personal development, business, entrepreneurship, marketing, branding side. That's a great partnership for you. And now it's not just writing, it's any of those specific industry skill sets where you're complementary to them. Because here's what happens. So the writing coach, he has people come on, they pay him whatever they pay him. They learn how to write, and then what? They have no business because they can't market. They have no branding. They have no content.
Or they have the book and they have no way to market it.
Yeah. And so that actually hurts the writing coach. And the writing coach then is probably struggling to also figure out, how do I put more marketing in here? Because if my authors are not getting their books out, I lose my business. So you actually solve a super important problem for the writing coach. And you don't want to be, you're not the writing coach. You're not going to come in and sit with them and figure out how to write their book. So it's a highly complementary skill set here.
Yeah.
Now imagine if there were 52 writing coaches from around America who every week were thinking about Raylen. What does that do for your business? Right?
Yeah.
So then the show becomes you interviewing writing coaches.
Yeah.
And you have them on as a guest and you talk about what it's like working with writers and why they started their business, and you talk about what you do. And that creates a relationship. So that maybe you get referrals on the spot because now they know you, like you, trust you. If you were to call up all the writing coaches in America, or DM them on LinkedIn, cold message, you'll get some people who want to talk to you. If you have them on your show, though, now you've actually built rapport because you're spending an hour with them.
And you're doing something for them.
You're doing something for them. And everybody, here's the thing. Nobody wants to do a sales call talking to you, but everybody wants to talk about their story and be on a podcast. So that becomes a podcast. Even if you have 0 subscribers. Like if you have 0 subscribers, you're not going to get The Rock to come on your show. But to get a writing coach to come on who's probably never been on a podcast, never been asked, been on maybe one show ever in their life. Like, you want to interview me? Yeah. Like, I'm starting a new show to help entrepreneurs. And I think writing a book might be really interesting to them. And I'd love to have you come on and share what it takes to write a great book. They'll say yes.
Yeah.
Right. And now you have a great contact. And if you did that once a week, and you got, 52 writing coaches now who now know who you are, like you, trust you. Not all of them are going to pass business to you, but if a quarter of them start passing 3, 4, 5 clients to you, that blows up your business.
Yeah.
We just talked about you just need 10 to 20 clients to have a great business. You can get all of that from a few similar coaches. So that should be your first show. And it doesn't matter how well the videos do. It doesn't matter how many subscribers you have. They're going to say yes because nobody ever bothers reaching out to ask them as a guest. So if I was struggling to get my business off the ground, that's exactly what I would do. And most people go to competitors, it's like, but they're not going to give you business.
Yeah.
So don't have them on the show. Like if the point is I need to grow my business and earn revenue as soon as possible, right? You could do it with individual clients too. Like you could do it with potential ideal clients, have them on and start talking about their mindset and their marketing, their branding, and their advertising and how they started and they'll see holes like, oh yeah, we're not very good at that. Oh, well, we are. It becomes not a sales pitch, but they know what you're good at. The problem with that is only one person at a time. Yeah. So that maybe that one person becomes a client versus if it's a potential partner, that person can refer clients to you because they're dealing with, that writing coach is dealing with new people coming in every month.
Yeah.
And they all need marketing help.
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about is this was the strategy you gave me when we met at the book launch party. And what's so funny is I was telling you when we first met, we met up today, that I work like gangbusters, right? The open rate for those were like 60%, and then of those, about 60% of them are interested in learning more about our podcast agency. But you're right in that I realized we were too short-sighted. So all the clients we've been getting from the strategy, the biz dev strategy, have been consultants and coaches. But what you're saying is think a little bit bigger and go to someone that can refer us more people. Like imagine, I'm just spitballing here, but if we went to like a consulting firm, let's say they have like executive, you know how they have those executive like consulting firms that maybe you don't, but in corporate they'll hire a company to be the executive coach instead of like individual people. But they have sometimes like 50 like consultants underneath them. Now imagine if we partnered with them. Well, each consultant could potentially have their own podcast. So if we get the CEO of the consulting firm on the podcast, right? Now there's an opportunity there where they'll refer to us 50 some people. Is that kind of what you're saying? So there's like, it's a domino effect. Instead of going after one client, potential clients, like let's go after a big whale that can give us a lot more opportunity.
So in there, I would see that more as like, that's one big client who then like those consultants are on their team, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's fine, but that one client gives you 10 clients kind of underneath where it's fine. So it's just a big client as opposed to every new consultant needs to launch a podcast. Then anybody, now your competitors in the coaching world could all become partners for you. Yeah. Because if anybody needs to launch their own podcast, you should talk to Raylen.
Yeah.
So you want people who are dealing with 100 consultants a month just coming in, new people coming in, learning how to start their consulting business or teaching specific things that have nothing to do with podcasting. And then you're going to be the podcast guy.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I got to think through a little bit too, what would be complementary, like what else they need. They would go to those people.
Yeah. The easy starting point is who's already referring you business.
Yeah.
So if writing coaches are already referring you business, cool. How many writing coaches are there in America?
A lot, yeah.
Have them on your show. Start telling a story, like build the connections. That already can take you to your next 8-figure business just from talking to writing coaches.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And you could have a channel. Here's the thing, like how many subscribers are on your channel?
200.
200. Like you could build a 7-8-figure business off of 200 subscribers.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not waiting for your videos to blow up and for you to get known and to be speaking on giant stages and get book deals and go on Oprah. Like this happens right now.
Yeah.
Right? Which is great. And like that can work for everybody as long as you don't need to get to the big names. Right? If you need The Rock and Will Smith and whoever else, then that's a problem because they're not going to come on your show with 200 subscribers. But writing coaches, of course, will. For a brand new channel, they will.
Yeah.
Right? So that should be, I think, everybody's first show. So like I teach this to my groups, right? It's like, stop doing these thought leadership videos. It's great. Like, it's a starting point. Awesome if you want to develop the skill. But your first show needs to be a biz dev show because I need you to start, like, or you need you to start making money in this business, right? So that's the first one. The second show is show me the process of what you do. And this is especially important for coaches. So if you're a coach, the best thing you can do is show me you coaching. Not you teaching me the 8 ways to fix my mindset. Show me you coaching somebody because I want to know that you're a good coach, not just a good speaker.
Yeah. Well, you gave me a little confidence about this. So like we weren't doing it on the channel. We did the workshop and then we took that footage because it was me coaching. So we put that on the YouTube channel. But the struggle that I had before was Zoom. Like a lot of our stuff was through Zoom and like, how do you record this and make it look good? Well, literally, I think it was yesterday, you just posted on your YouTube channel, you coaching in the Zoom for people that bought the, any of your books like Momentum, for example. And it was brilliant because what you did was, and this sounds like it was such a small thing, but I got like kind of geeked out about it because it was the Zoom video and it was the gallery version of that. And I thought, because if I did that, I don't think anybody would watch it. And maybe your ego gets in a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. And immediately I saw that and go, well, people are going to watch this because it's Evan, right? By the way, I love you and I still get in my head and that's like my ego saying, because it's giving me an out, right? So I watched it and you did something brilliant. You started rolling B-roll over the example you were giving. I can't remember the exact context of it, right? But you were basically saying like, yeah, if you're struggling with this, and there was B-roll of the person struggling, and then I go, oh, he's fucking brilliant. Because again, I don't know how many people would sit there and watch a gallery of that. However, you kept my attention by, is it called pacing? Is that what?
Yeah.
So, but you're throwing that B-roll and you're throwing examples to go, that's how you can still do it.
Especially,
I got caught up with it because I was like, I can't do my coaching videos because they're boring as shit.
Well, the editing still like doesn't matter that much, right? So
I feel like it did because it kept me going.
If somebody wants to learn the thing, like if you're going to coach people on how to build an online business or how to be a coach, you're going to coach coaches, right? How to build a business, how to build a brand. Those are not videos that will pop and hit America.
Yeah.
But for somebody who wants to learn how to be a coach, where are they going? Who are they talking to?
Yeah.
Their mom? The library? Like, where are they going to learn how to do this? They're going to YouTube to learn. So the goal with, again, my immediate goal is I want you to make some money, right? I'm purpose driven, dude. Like purpose, believe all the way, change the world. Yes. And like, if you don't know how to make money pretty quickly, you just will stop. So if you are doing coaching videos, there's a couple things. One, they're easier to make. If you're a great coach, you probably are not great at talking to the camera yet. Most people are not geniuses at public speaking. It's a skill that they need to develop.
And also think about how many times, like as a coach, I've done a coaching session. Fuck, I wish I was recording that. Because that stuff is way better than my stuff when I'm purposely sitting in front of the camera trying to, it doesn't come out right.
For sure. If your goal is to be a speaker, then I need to see you speaking.
Yeah.
Then we need you direct the camera. If your goal is to be a coach, then let me see you coach. It's easier content to make. You're better at it than if you're just talking to the camera. It's more fun because there's a human with you. If you're a coach, you like the interaction, not just talking to a camera in your office or your basement or whatever, right? And 3, it leads to more sales for you because for the people watching, it won't be a big audience, but the people who watch care about that thing. And now they get to see the aha moment. Like if you're a great coach, you get an aha moment. It's like, oh, man, that's the moment that we're looking for, right? So then when people are, whether that person who you're coaching signs up with you or not, doesn't matter. It's the people watching. If they get that same aha moment, then they think, man, if Raylen can help him, maybe he can help me too, right? So it's not as big of an audience. So the people who are watching are your hopefully ideal clients who then want to work with you. Plus it's more fun and easier to make than traditional content. And it can be easily done over Zoom too. The other thing is it's great conversion content for your website, for your landing page, we think we have testimonials. That's okay. But if I'm going to hire Raylen to be my coach, and then I get to see 10 videos of him coaching people.
Yeah.
As opposed to his thought leadership videos, like, oh man, this guy's actually like a great coach. And this is some of the stuff that I tell even some of the biggest names in the industry, right? I just came back from hanging out with Dean Graziosi and a bunch of people in Napa. He's local here in Arizona. And as we're going around the room, like Dean is just, he put his coach hat on and was just really crushing it, helping everybody. But you never see him coach.
That's true.
You just see him present. It's like, dude, that's your show, right? And like Dean and all these guys, Brendan and Gary's done some of it, Grant, like all of the guys that you think of in the industry, you don't see them. They're great coaches, and they might even sell coaching, but you never see them coaching.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, the biggest unlock. That's the next 5 years. We're going to see a lot more of that coaching videos, and that's going to really help build people's personal brands up. But it helps you convert more people to sales. So it's getting people to come on. Then we can dive into like, how do you find the people to come on, and will they share their problems with me, and yada, 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 which of course they will, and you can. But it's more fun. It's easier to make. It's faster to put out, and it helps convert you to sales from people watching the content. They want to hire you, plus for conversion on your websites, emails, landing pages, etc. That will make people then want to sign up to hire you as a coach.
Well, also this strategy is so interesting to me because also it helps people dequalify themselves. Because one of my coaching strategy is not like, I don't handhold as often. I'm kind of blunt. I'm an asshole at times, right? My joke is I'm like the in the middle between David Goggins and Brene Brown, like right there in the middle.
It's a big spectrum.
Yeah, it's like kind of like somewhere in the middle there. Throw in Jocko, I'm like a little bit in the middle there. But the nice thing about this strategy of like the coaching is that people can then see how I do it, and they can kind of withdrawal. They go like, you know what, like I don't want to be talked to like that. Like I gotta good.
Yeah.
Don't work with me then. At least you know. It's almost like a free trial, if you will. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But people will also self-select in.
Yes.
So the level of push really depends on how much of an achiever client base you have. And we're talking about this in the car on the way up. Like if you're dealing with the people at the very beginning, they need a lot more hand-holding. They need a lot more encouragement. Your one step is like 1,000 steps for them. Like just getting out of bed might be a win for them.
Yeah.
Just putting on clothes and not being in pajamas might be a win for them, which might be like the babyest of baby steps. So it's a lot more hand-holding and a lot more accountability at the very early stages of anything. So if you're a coach that deals with that area, cool, do it. If you're coaching achievers, they don't need the push and like in the loving, like, you can do it, Raylen, come on, man. Oh my gosh, then it's like, dude, tell me where I suck. Like punch me in the face. Like they like the truth and the blunt and the honest because nobody tells them the truth. Like they are probably the most ambitious person that they know, and they want somebody to take them to the next level, which is also a coach. So understanding, like, you want to coach achievers more than the very beginner basic people. It's not that you're going to, spit on a complete beginner. You're a nice guy, but like where you excel is going to be helping the achievers really step up and achieve a lot more. So you're yelling at them is not seen as a negative. It's like, thank you, dude. Yeah. Thank you I needed that push. Nobody talks to me like that.
Yeah. Because you're right in that I don't necessarily yell at them. My favorite conversations have been with some of our clients that are like, hey, I'm struggling with da-da-da, and I'm usually, this actually goes into the next thing I want to talk about, which is your 2% difference thing, but I'm like, you just called me and complained to me about this thing for 15 minutes now. You could have had the fucking thing done. What are we doing? So that's usually the conversations that I have, but you're right in that not everyone likes that. But because of that though, I have a really tight community in the academy because they all signed up for that. What was super fascinating to me, which is a bit of a side note, was I didn't realize how many people would be into that. I don't know why I had this thing in my head where I was like, this idea of tough love. I'm like, I don't know, because all the people I was around myself with, the other coaches, they were all that, you got it, you go girl, you got it guy. Like it was very like cheerleading, and I was like, that's not how you get better. But like, okay, but I saw a bunch of people going that way, and I thought, I don't think anybody's gonna like what I do, and I was surprised at how many people that were what I viewed them as being a little bit more soft, if you will, or like shy, but they were drawn to it. And I was like, that's weird. Like, I didn't think that was going to work, You're still, you're attracting the right people to you.
Yeah. How many people in America want the push. Like, how many people are actually high achievers? I don't know. Even if you say 1%, like it's a tiny percentage, but 1% of America is still a lot of people.
Well, it makes sense too if you look at like David Goggins. Okay, he's literally running, swearing at you.
Yeah,
and yet he's like millions of followers. So there is a. I had to, again. I didn't know why I missed it before, but I realized I'm like, oh, but there's still a need for this. Like, yes, there's people that love, like Brene Brown, for example, and they love that. Hey, it's okay. Kind of thing, and then there's people that love Jocko that posts a picture of his watch at 4:30 in the morning going, what the fuck did you do today?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think everybody is capable of achieving great things. I mean, that's my belief. But most people are buried underground. Like, most people are buried under just insecurities and fears and doubts and expectations and what society wants for them and what their parents and like, we're just buried. And most people hate their lives. So for the person who's like so buried deep underground, they can't hear the message of go get it and like get the F up and go, like they can't hear it. Easy for you to say, right? Yeah. And so they won't listen. So they need the hug and they need the hand holding and they need the encouragement and they need the support. And it's a very loving path to get from being buried to just being on level ground.
Yeah.
Once you're on level ground, you're ready to climb, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go, right? And so it's just meeting people where they're at in the journey. And when I'm coaching people, I just have to assess where are they? Where are they on the path? Like, if we talked about that idea and you hadn't done anything, like, dude, really, we talked about this like 3 months ago. What's happening, dude? And that's the kind of conversation, because you appreciate that more. Like, come on, really? But for people at the beginning stage, which is most people, I'm much more cheerleading and encouraging, and you can do it, and less push. So it's understand, and a coach doesn't have to be everything for everybody. Yeah, that's fine. But it's understanding where they're at, and that people need both Brene Brown and David Goggins at different points in their life.
That's so true. And also, too, one thing that you just kind of taught me to kind of maybe look at myself a little bit more is maybe I'm not meeting people where they are at enough. Because pretty much immediately, as soon as, because my whole, like, Elevated's based around, you mentioned obviously, like, purpose comes from pain, which you talked a lot about in Built to Serve, which, I'm not trying to kiss your ass, but it was a great book. But purpose coming from pain. So for me, I was a victim my whole life. So I have this almost like this anger towards when I hear people make excuses for their life. So that's what my entire brand is about, is removing victimhood. However, I sometimes get impatient. And I think what you're saying is one thing that I'm going to take as coaching for me is like assessing, where's Evan right now, right? Is he in the valley? What does he need in this moment? Is me saying you're just making fucking excuses going to help him see the bigger picture? Or should I just sit back for a minute and go like, well, what do you want? Right? Like, what do you want for your life? And then starting from that point. So,
well, the key thing as a coach is you want them to start taking steps.
Yeah.
You want them to take a step to changing their life and improving their business. The problem is you're judging the step and the size of the step.
Yeah.
But like a giant step for them might just be getting out of bed today.
Yeah.
And you think that's nothing. Like, how is that a step? Like, that doesn't even count.
Yeah.
But in their world, that's huge. And if you can teach them to start the step, then they'll get ready eventually for the Raylen tough love. Like, hey, we talked about this 3 months ago and it still hasn't happened. Why are you not doing it? Right? And so when I'm looking at the entrepreneurs I've invested into and mentored, the beginning is getting to know them, where are they at, and what are they dealing with in life, where are they struggling, and it's a lot more kindness and love and patience and understanding. And as we get to know each other better, it's a lot rougher.
Yeah.
It's like a push, like it's just all push. And sometimes a little fall back, but for the most part, it's just all push and giving people, it's just what they need now. So it's judging the size of the step. You think that it's not a big enough step, but for them, it's like impossible you're asking them to go to the moon.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't, and in the push, it actually could make things worse. Because here's Raylen, he's so successful, he's seen this is what I need to do. I can't do that. I guess I'll never be successful.
Yeah.
So you actually it's better to do nothing than to tell them the wrong thing.
Yeah. Because I've also had it where I've gone too hard, and I know those people, because again, this is actually kind of an excuse, but like I get very invested early on. Like, I know you can be great, and I want you to be great, and I'm going to fucking drag you there.
Yeah.
Like I've told people that before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to drag you there, whether you like to go there or not. But I think what has happened before is they're like, ooh, I don't want that push. They go to someone that's a little bit more cheerleader, which is fine. But then I noticed that years later they're in the same spot because they didn't need the cheerleading in that moment because they've got their whole damn life. And that's why they haven't moved.
Yeah, but they didn't need what you gave them either because they didn't do it.
So that's why I'm like, I think, again, what I'm hearing from you, what I think I need to probably do better in my coaching is assessing.
And they could have needed the cheerleading in the moment.
Yeah.
But they didn't need the cheerleading for 6 months.
Yeah.
They needed some Raylen 3 months in, and they never got it, and they never came back. And they never came back because they couldn't make. They just see you as like the hard push guy, and it's like it didn't work. It's not a fit. But you could, and it doesn't mean that you have to either, right?
Yeah.
I think like when I made in my training in Movement Makers, we did 2 sessions on coaching, like a 9-step coaching plan, and the first half is really just understanding where the person's at, and you might just leave a coaching session recognizing that listening alone is value. Mm-hmm. The fact that you listen to their story is already ahead of where most people are at. The fact that even if they're complaining and they're in victimhood and all of the stuff is like getting your blood all upset, is like, I can't believe this person's still blaming themselves for all, you're like, whatever's getting you all riled up. The fact that you can just listen and not judge them and they have an outlet to share something is already actually a step because they probably haven't told their story to anybody. Mm-hmm. And if they have, there's been a lot of judgment that came back. Like, oh, you should do this because they told their spouse or their parents or their friends or whatever. So just the willingness to share already and your ability to listen is huge value that you've given them. But we don't want to like, what? Just listen to them? I didn't even give them any advice. That's not a step. Like we don't, as achievers, because you're operating at a much different level, you don't see that as anything. Like that's just table stakes. But for them, that's already a huge step. So it's like, do you... Fundamentally, I believe that on a long enough timeline, you can help anybody. But do you want to put in the amount of effort and work to handhold and take baby steps before do you want to teach them to walk before they can run? Mm-hmm. Maybe not. Everybody can run. And some coaches really just want to focus on the running. Yeah. Right?
Well, what you do really well that I've noticed as well is your ability to understand the environment you're in and change. So, like, for example... going back to the 20-minute conversation we had that at the book launch party, you slowed way down and started asking questions. And then you gave advice, but you slowed way down and then you started asking questions and listening. And then there's Evan that's on a stage that's just, I'm giving the information, I'm giving the advice. So your ability to understand the context and change, where I'm learning, which is interesting, is, and I think probably many coaches are learning this too, is you got to understand where you're at. So sometimes I give too much advice in a coaching session. Mm-hmm. I start talking, and I know inherently it should be an 80-20 rule for coaching. Like 20% should be me, 80% is them talking, and me helping you get to the idea. But what I've noticed is I'll be filming something like a masterclass, that I call them masterclasses, but the talking head shit that I do on YouTube. I'll do that, and then I'll have a coaching session right after that. And I'm talking at them, and I have to stop for a second and go like, oh, it's a different context. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I think that's why, like in this book, Momentum, you talked about your blocking out of days. And I read that and I go, shit, I think I used to do that and I got away from it. It's so funny, like you get in a pattern of like, oh, this is working, and then something happens, you get off of it. But I think you're right in that I need to have a creation day, and then I need to have my coaching day, because it's a different vibe. And I'm cross-pollinating too much, and I think that's causing my coaching to suffer, but also my content to suffer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more productive to stay in one zone, and you generally pick up steam as you go. So we're recording this on a Thursday. Thursday is my public-facing day.
By the way, when I read that in the book, that was your Thursday, I looked at it, I was like, because we talked about this on, like, I think it was Monday or something like that, and you picked Thursday. And I read that and I was like, oh shit, dude, he sticks to this thing. Like
he actually lives it. Yeah. So, I had my Brandlytics training, and I'll usually start my Thursday. I'm introverted and shy normally, which doesn't come across in something like this, but I start with my programs. It's like my family, people who I know and love and like want to desperately help. So I had my YouTube training session for 90 minutes, this morning. Then I had a break. It's like, okay, well, Raylen, you free? Let's do it at this time. So now, but you get the energy that I had there. Mm-hmm. It just flows. And then after this, I'm going to do another training. And so they're going to get the energy from you, right? And our session here. And it's just easier just to stay in all I'm doing on a Thursday is just trying to give value and help my community and other people's community, and hopefully say something that helps. It's my extrovert hat on day, and I'm not worried about my team. I'm not worried about my YouTube channel. I'm not worried about my next book. I'm not worried about my software company, the people I'm mentoring, none of that. Like I have no idea what's happening with any of that stuff right now. I'm just here focused on this. And so it's more fun, and it also helps keep me in the same energy state, where if you're going from a podcast to then a coaching session to then writing your book to then a video, like if you're doing YouTube videos, it might take you half an hour just to get in the zone of, like, not just getting the lights set up and your hair and whatever, but just in the zone of bringing energy on camera. The time it takes to get in the zone to make one video, you're already in the zone. Go make 4 more videos. Like, it could take you the same amount of time to make the next 4 that it took you to make the first one.
Yeah.
And so that just really worked for me. It started when I was writing Your One Word. I found I needed, for all the people who are like, just write 1 crappy page a day or whatever, like, it just would not work for me. Because I read the page and I don't remember. It took me 20 minutes to get back into where I was from the last time. And so I ended up writing nothing. So I felt like I'm a dummy. Like, this is just not, it's working for everybody. It's not working for me. I need an entire day. And so I blocked off Wednesdays where I just walked to Whole Foods and I would just sit there and write as much of my book as possible. And the first 20, 40 minutes was almost a waste of time. But then I got into book flow and then just started creating amazing things. And then I just repeated that for all the days of the week. Personal stuff too. Like, Saturday is my fun day. And then Sunday is the family admin day. So Costco and cleaning up the house and whatever. So we don't do that on a Saturday. We're not cleaning up the house on a Saturday. We need to buy chicken for the family. Cool. We're like, well, no chicken. We'll do something else, because Saturday is fun day. And so I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we'll block off the business stuff but not the personal stuff as well. Yeah. And that's just really worked for me, is having entire days dedicated to things.
Yeah, I'm going back to that now again, because I read it in there, and I liked you had, like, your CO day is on Monday. That's where you meet with the team, because again, we have a smaller team. I mean, it's 6 people, but it's still 6 fucking people. Yeah. And like, what I was doing before is I would have these 15-minute meetings every day but what I've noticed, I've been doing it for a few months, is that it kind of fucks up the rest of the day for me. Like, if it's a bad meeting or it's a hard conversation I need to have, well, that energy then goes into my creation, or it goes into me having a sales call or whatever. And I was like, I don't like that. So I'd rather just have the coaching for the team be one day, because again, I think that's your Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday is my mentoring day. Yeah. And again, this doesn't have to be prescriptive for everybody. Try it and see what works. Yeah. For me, I'm the whole day on Monday I do 25-minute sessions, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, like the whole day, mentoring people on my team. We just crossed 50 people on the team. So I can't hit everybody every week, obviously, but we're cycling through. And I just find that all I have to worry about is mentoring people. Like, what videos am I making? I don't know. It doesn't matter. How's my software company doing? I have no idea. Who's my podcast? I have no idea. Like, none of that matters. I'll just have to be here with my team and focus on them. And again, the energy from one flows into the next, and I'll get better throughout the day. And so again, anybody listening, watching, if that's how you operate, then try as much as possible to block out your calendar. It's not always possible, or maybe you have a job and it's not possible, to fully block it out. But when are you going to work on your business? And I think you'll probably get a lot more done by doing, 5 hours on a Saturday than like 5 hours, 1 hour a day over the Monday to Friday. Because when you're in flow, you create magical things. Yeah.
So one of the final things I want to get to, because I want to be cautious of your time. I think we got like 15 minutes before you probably got ready for your next thing. It's 11:30. I know you got a hard stop at 12, but
11:30.
11:35. I think.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to talk to you about this. The 2% difference. So, and I want to give you, and maybe I'm just giving you some flowers right now, but I wanted to kind of. There's something that I realized that, speaking of excuses, that I was giving myself, and I noticed it in the book. So there's 2 things that you said. You said something about the idea that because you're introverted, you're like, oh, people that speak on stage are egotistical, and like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to be famous. That was like the whole thing you were talking about. In reading that, I noticed my own kind of bullshit, which was I made an excuse for. There's 2 things I make an excuse for. I do the opposite of the 2%. So what I mean by that is my YouTube videos, for example, I don't prepare for them at all. I literally just, there's a topic, I already know the information, I hit the record button, and I just go, and I go. So I am jumping in, but I think what I've done, I'm trying to find the right words for this, is that my just winging it has been my excuse because I'm good at it. I'm good at winging stuff, but I don't plan at all. And I think part of my excuse has been I can just wing it, so I don't prepare for shit. And I think that's partly why, one, I've told myself that I don't want to write a book because you have to actually like prepare for shit. You know, you can't just like wing a book. And writing is something that it's a challenge for me, period. Like Twitter, the reason why I've been going hard on Twitter lately is because I hate it. I hate texting. Like I'd rather just call people. But also the speaking thing, because I know I have to plan for that. I would have to practice the speech. You helped me realize my own bullshit in that, like, I was like, oh, that's my excuse. That's been my out, is that I don't plan, so, like, I don't want to have to do a speech. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So one of the things I kind of wanted to ask you about was how often, like, what is your way of seeing your own blind spots? Like, for me, it's been people like you say something vulnerable in this, like, I've been afraid of doing X, Y, and Z and whatever. I'm like, oh, I do the same thing. But what is your barometer for calling yourself out on little things?
It's usually inspiration from other people. So my own videos, not with me talking, but when I'm profiling somebody, often it's reading between the lines. Like Elon Musk says something and like, okay. They're not usually prescriptive. So example, like Elon Musk went on like CNN or something a bunch of years ago and said AI is going to destroy the world. Like the robots are going to ruin everything. Right? And then the reporter asks, oh, that's a big statement. Like, how's it going to happen? He's like, I don't know. And like, when's it going to happen? I don't know. And as I watch that, it's like, if I went on a major news network and made some outlandish, claim that I believed in, would I have the confidence to say, I don't know? Like, if you ask me a question, would I have the confidence to say, I don't know if I didn't know? Yeah. Because I think we would try to find an answer, make something up, right? Yeah. Just to say, I don't know in front of the world. I don't know. Like I hope, and watching that clip, it made me think, how would I, even though he's not prescribing his advice, it's reading between the lines and see how people act. Mm-hmm. That I hope that if I got to that stage where I get asked a question that I just have no idea, that I would say, I don't know. Your heart's beating, you want to have an answer. So it's by getting inspired by watching people. Like, I don't know Elon Musk personally. I haven't texted him to ask him for advice, but I learn from his content. And then for people who you do know, who have context on you, who you respect their opinion, you ask. So again, Napa, we just came back, and it's Brendan Burchard's private group. We usually meet around his house, and it's just his friends. There's no fee to get in. You have to be Brendan's friend. Mm-hmm. There's like 40 people there. It's me and Tom Bilyeu and Jay Shetty and Dean and Mel Robbins and Ed Milet and like all the guys, all the
bunch of people that like no one knows about.
Bunch of people, all the personal development people, right? And we meet once a year around Brendan's house and we chat. And the format is 25 minutes each, roughly go around and you share what's a question that you need help with. And my question was, what's my blind spot? Mm. Like you guys have known me a bunch. Some people are new. I don't have as much contact. Some of them have known me for years. Not like we're super tight hanging out every day, but they know me enough. What do you see as my blind spot? And like, let me know. And Tom and Lisa and Dean and Brendan in front of everybody kicked my ass, which is great. Yeah. Because I could have asked a safe question, which would be, hey, I'm launching my software company this year. How should I market it? That's an easy question. And I would have got some great feedback. But like, hey, what am I, like, be brutally honest. What's my blind spot? What am I missing? Because I think when you can get that kind of feedback of people who you respect and who can push you, that's a great question. It's a scary question to ask, especially in front of people. But it's like, okay, that's what I want.
What was the blind spot?
The blind spot was they don't know how to pay me more. Mm. Yeah, it's like, you've done so much to help us with everything and help so many people with everything. I don't know how to pay you. And I want to like write you a check. Yeah. And I don't know how to write you a check.
That's so funny. What is the first thing I asked you in the car? I was like, I don't know how you make money, dude.
How do you make money?
That's so funny. You're right. Do you think that's on purpose? I asked you before, is that on purpose, or do you feel like that's like because sometimes I think like you're so generous with your time, and there's people like a lot like you. Specifically, Genius Network does a really good job at attracting people like that. And I think, but sometimes do you feel like it's I don't know the right word for it, but it's like a shield almost. You're so generous that like it's starting to not people don't know how to fucking pay you. You know, like it's starting to become almost like a downside, if you will. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I'm still processing the feedback.
Yeah.
I think it's a couple of things. One, I come from startup entrepreneur land, no money, and just helping. And so the people I was helping had no money. And so I didn't ever ask for money. And but now when you're dealing with people who've got like major budgets, it's
different.
Yeah, it's different. And I need to think about that. Two, I don't value money enough. You know, like it's not, I mean, I need to make money. Otherwise the 50 people on my team we couldn't afford. Yeah. But it's not like definitely not the top of my priority. And I probably should value money more.
It's a hard balance though, those two things. Because I've been on the other side where I pendulum swing hard. I haven't found that balance yet. And granted, I'm newer, but I've been in a place where I only think about money. And that place is shitty because we made a lot of money then, but I hated who we were working with. Right. And then I've also done to where I never think about money. And then, which there's advantages to that. But also I think there's a place in the middle that I don't know how to find it yet.
I mean, I sold my company when I was 21, my software company. And after that, I never really had to worry about money. Not that I was like going off and buying Lambos and stuff, but it was never the thing. I went from being like dead broke of sharing McDonald's French fries with my two business partners when we landed a sale, because that's all we could afford, right? Like $300 a month was what I was making, to then not having to worry about money. And so we've made money along the way, but it's never been a top priority. I've got a guy who, Nick, who's on my team, who does a lot of the marketing stuff for me. And we were having a good conversation about it. Basically, for me, I'd like me helping you or helping some, new entrepreneur on the street or helping insert big name. All the same. Like I like the serving. And so his challenge is, okay, let's take that and figure out a way to monetize it. Right. And so he's doing more of the marketing brains behind promotion and all that, because for me, I'll just do it. Like we're launching a new mastermind where people will come to Toronto to hang out with me, and I'm going to present for a day. And like first half is like group and second half is individual one-on-ones. And I want content for the YouTube channel to film as well. And he's like, yeah, we should sell that for like $20,000. Like, okay, cool. I want to start. Like, I want to start 2% difference. The 2% difference is like just get started. So I'm going to start in 2 weeks. Like, I'm going to book the first one. He's like, oh, we can't sell it that quickly. Like, okay, I'll do it for free. Like, whatever. I just want people. I want the service. I want to do the thing. So if I'm giving a speech and I'm getting paid, $25K versus free, it's like it's the same thing. I'm showing up. So I'm way more addicted to the service than the financial side of it. And so my solution has been team, who's like way more focused on that and can push and guide. So that's not my number one priority. Like my agent books out the speaking gigs and the budget and the plane ride out and all that, because it's like, I want to come and help and do it.
I think that's the move, is to get an agent for the speaking thing, because then you don't have to worry about it. You get to just focus on the craft of the speech, and then somebody else is taking care of the nuance.
But my favorite thing about speaking is not the speach. It's the hallway.
I was going to say, because you sit in the freaking lobby with people.
Yeah, for like 6 hours. Like, that's the best for me. So when I was talking to you at Joe's event and wouldn't let you go or whatever, it's like, cool, because we're doing something. That's my favorite part of going to, I hate networking events. And so my favorite thing is, because I'll never go up and say hi to people. Yeah. Unless I really know them, right? Yeah. I'm too introverted and shy to do that. So my strategy is wear branded gear so people who may know me will come say hi, or speak on stage, and then I want to speak on day one as early as possible, and I'll just hang out in the lobby for the next 2 or 3 days just helping people, because I will never go up to you, but I want to help you. I want to talk. So I'll just stand there.
You need a sign that says like, come ask your
questions. Yeah, ask your questions. Luckily it's gotten to the point now where like that just happens. But yeah, like that's my favorite part. And to the point where it's unhealthy. Like I will forget to eat and go to the bathroom, and I'll run a fever and not even know it, because I'm just sitting there helping. And it's like, oh, it's 3 a.m. I need to sleep because I have to get up tomorrow for my flight or whatever. Yeah. So I'm too addicted to the service and the helping, and not enough of a focus on the business and growth and financial side, although we've done pretty well. But But that was the feedback. It's like, okay, you've done pretty well, and like maybe you should have 500 people instead of 50.
You know, Evan, I find you so interesting because you're an introvert, and generally speaking, introverts get energy for being alone. That's kind of like part of it. Also, call me out if that's wrong. But what's interesting is you get a lot of energy from helping people, which usually in context is around people.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting thing with you where it's like you keep saying you're an introvert, but then when we were meeting, you were like pretty chill and laid back. And then the second that we start talking about, you fucking like, it's like you were taking the energy from the environment. So it was just, it's interesting.
I don't know that I'll speak on behalf of all introverts, but
Yeah.
you know, my own story would be, I struggled with this a lot. My biggest fight with my agent was like, you need to be famous, Evan. It's like, I don't want to be famous.
Yeah.
Why do I want to be famous? I don't want to be famous. And he's like, I don't understand you. Everybody I work with wants to be famous. Like, okay, cool. I don't know. I don't want to be famous. And so we fought for years until he said, you don't understand, you know, the if you get more famous, people hear the message. And it's always been about the message. And so hanging out in most, like, I remember being in San Diego. This still happens. This is like late last year, a couple months ago in San Diego. Grant Cardone was doing this event in San Diego, and it was on a boat, and the boat was going to have like Tim Tebow and like all these celebs, and you went on a boat cruise and you come back, and because it was like 3 or 4 hours on the boat, and I'd have no way to get back if I didn't like it, I didn't go. Right? It's like, 3 hours on a boat and I have no way to get back. What if I hate it? Right? It's like
terrible.
I need an escape plan. I got to go. But what I realized was introverts love to serve.
Yeah.
Like we want to serve too. We want to feel like the work we do has meaning and matters to people. And so that's what I lean in and focus on. And most conversations do drain me. If you want to talk about the weather or I don't know, what do people talk about? I don't know what people talk about. I suck at all that stuff. I hate it. It drains me. Like I do not like networking events. It drains me to no end. I hate introducing myself. I hate answering like, well, what do you do? All of that. Like I never talk to the person on the airplane next to me.
Yeah.
All of it, zero. But if you can hit on like a couple of, if you're an entrepreneur or you love salsa dancing or League of Legends, we could probably have like a really deep 5-hour conversation. And so I think, at least for me, it may not be for all introverts, we love meaningful, deep, powerful conversations and none of the surface fluffy stuff. And that's the stuff that really will drain me and I'll avoid as much as possible. Yeah.
I get what, again, it's fascinating because people don't know this again about me either, is that I'm also an introvert. Like I don't like talking to people unless again when I read your books and stuff, I was like, oh, I am kind of normal. Because again, I can put it on, but also after this and some other conversations that I have today, and I'm gonna be tired. I'm not gonna want to leave my house. Like I really enjoy being at home, reading with my fiance, and then playing video games or something like that. Like that's like what I do to kind of recharge. But most people don't believe it because I'm fucking loud. Most of the time, but it's true. The final thing I wanted to get to, and then I'm gonna let you go because again I know you got something at 12. But telling your story.
Okay.
You said something again in Momentum. I'm referring to this book a lot, but there we go. Boom, pick it up, guys. I'm referring to it a lot because again, I really enjoyed when you were talking about specifically telling your story, and I realized I don't tell mine enough, and I find that to be so interesting. Because there is no context, I think, to why it's so important for me to help people elevate, have like that personal freedom. Because again, I was a victim my whole life. And you told the story about like essentially meaning that like if you tell somebody something and there's no context, they don't have no story, they're not going to listen to you. And that actually happened to me. I was on IG Live with somebody and they're talking about like, they kept saying this phrase, which is like, you know, I have depression, so I can't help it because of da-da-da. And that really bothers me, right? Because, again, the context in this was, again, I'm giving my power away to this magical word that, like, is depression, right? That, by the way, no one's ever actually told him that. He just takes it and says, I have depression. That's a whole other thing. So I kept telling him, you know, look, what about all these things? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? No. And then now you just want a pill? And I remember at one point he goes, dude, what do you know? You've never been through anything like I've been through. And I go, oh, he doesn't know. So that I went through the story. My dad went away to prison when I was 7, domestic violence. I saw this, I saw that. And then it was like this aha moment where he goes, oh, I didn't know that. And again, I'm reading your book and I go, I keep making this damn mistake where I say the advice or say the thing, but there's no context. People don't know my story. So I guess my question to you would be like, one, like, how often do we tell our damn? I know it sounds like a really basic ass question, but like, how often should we tell our story? Because like, I've mentioned my past a lot on the podcast because it just keeps coming up. But even now, I'm like, fuck, I've said that like 18 times in this podcast now. Is that too much? Like, what is the rule set to like telling your story?
So this depends if you're talking to a group or you're talking to one person.
Mm-hmm.
In a coaching session, you're talking to one person. They haven't seen all your stuff. They don't know all the stories, and you can't assume that they have. Ideally, you're always telling a story, but you're picking the right story to tell to the right person at the right time. So depression might really serve that guy at that time. It may not serve me because I've never been depressed. So cool. That's an awesome story, Raylen. I mean, I hope you're okay. But it's like, it's nothing to do with what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you should always be telling a story, but what's the right story for that person in that moment, especially in a coaching session, because this is the challenge with a lot of coaches is we want to get to the advice. It's like, here's what you need to do, go. But if they don't know that you understand them, they're not listening to the advice. So you have to start with listening to feel heard, because if they don't feel heard, they're not listening to the advice too. So they have to feel heard. Then you have to tell your story that's related. It's like, yeah, I went through this too. I was with yada, 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 right? I've never been depressed, so like I can't help them as much as you could. And this is why coaching is so powerful. It's like you can help people that the big names can't. Like I can't help somebody with depression as much as you could. I could listen, but I don't have strategies. Nothing real because I've never been through it. It's like, well, you haven't been through it. Yeah, you're right. So who am I?
Yeah.
Like the physical one would always get me that I have never been through anything physical. Like I haven't been through any physical trauma. So when somebody said, oh, I broke my leg and I'm in, I can't, like, oh, okay, like I got nothing. But then in 2019, I broke my neck.
Say you broke
like,
your
let's
neck.
go. Let's go. I broke my neck, in 2 spots, fam.
Yeah.
Let's go, right? Like I still got up and I still filmed from the hospital with a concussion
and you
broken
still went
neck.
on your tour.
We did the tour, so it's like, okay, what do you got? But like that's great because the tour itself, I was worse as a speaker after I broke my neck. I had a concussion. I was in massive pain. I had to sit, with 4 pillows behind me and like ice packs on me for 3 to 4 hours as I spoke. I couldn't do anything except speak, which luckily is what I needed to do. But compared to my other speeches before I broke my neck, was night and day difference. I was worse. But I ended up being more inspiring to people because like he's showing up here with that. And like I can't not hit the snooze button on my phone in the morning, right? And so that story makes people relate to you, and then they're more willing to listen to the advice. So even if you only have 1 bit of advice instead of 3, but they felt that you listened to them and understand them, and you told your story, getting them to take action on the 1 bit of advice is all the difference.
Yeah.
So how often you tell a story? Every time, but not the same story. The story that they need to hear the most.
That's the best advice. Evan, you're the man. Also, I got a challenge for you. In your book, you said that you'd like to do with shit that scares you. So next time, because you're going to be back in Arizona
I'm here
eventually.
Yeah.
Right. Would you be interested if I take you and Joe Polish and I teach you guys jiu-jitsu?
That's sure.
All right. It'll be fun.
Am I going to wrestle? It's not wrestling. It's like, what do you
jiu-jitsu.
call it? Yeah, but sparring. Well, like what's the actual activity?
Oh, like
verb.
Going live? Yeah. Or like rolling?
What's
yeah,
the
I'll
verb?
let you guys roll a little bit.
Roll?
Yeah.
Oh, roll. Okay.
I'll let you guys roll a little bit.
Yeah,
but I'm going to show you some stuff first.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
okay, it'll be fun.
down.
All right. Dude.
You got to convince Joe. Joe, challenge.
He'll do it.
Joe is on. Let's go.
He'll do it because again, he's into fitness and he does the cold plunge and all that.
Yeah.
And plus, Jesse, one of the owners of Optimize,
Does it?
he used to be a professional fighter.
Yeah.
So we'll all do it. It'll be fun.
One last thing on coaching that just came to mind. Your goal as a coach is to try to get them to take some kind of action. Once you've done all that of building up the rapport and the story and giving some advice, your belief in them is the thing that they hold on to. Like you believe in them more than they believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what they hold on to. They don't even have to believe that they can do it. They have to believe that you believe that they can do it. And then that's if you have enough rapport, that's the thing that carries them to do it. So the hardest step is the first step. So the best thing you can do is do the first step with them in the coaching call.
Yeah. The 2% difference.
The 2% difference on the call while you're with them. Don't just give them the strategy of how to make content. Say, okay, we're going to make content right now. What do you mean? Pull out your phone, go to Instagram, press the record button, and we're going to make something. Well, what am I going to say? And then you coach them through that so that they actually have their first thing done. Whatever the 2% difference is inside the advice, do it with them while they're in front of you to start building momentum, as opposed to leaving them to their own devices, because your motivation has a half-life. And as soon as you hang up, they're already losing interest and the excuses already start coming back in.
Yeah.
So it's like, make the call. Jake. Make the call. Great. Let's do the call right now. And you spend the last 10 minutes of your coaching call having them make the call to the client that they weren't doing.
Then, of course, when they get done, they're excited. They're like, now we have momentum built, right?
Because they took the first step.
Yeah. All right. That was it, Evan.
Let's go, man.
You're the man. I appreciate you. Seriously, love you to death, man. This is the most generous thing anyone's ever done for me, is coming in and talking shit with me.
Cool.
So,
pay it forward.
To see how we executed the Evan Carmichael strategy for our YouTube channel, go and check this video out right now. It's a step-by-step on how you can generate leads using your YouTube channel, even if you have like 0 followers today.